we welcome each and every single one of you to Royal Ascot for the Royal Procession, the traditional curtain raiser to a day at the fabulous 5-day meeting. And once again, the weather gods have smiled, and once again, we have a terrific afternoon ahead. But for so many, this is a very special moment. Let's have a look at the list of those that we'll be introducing you to in the next few minutes, with His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen, joined by Lord and Lady Cavendish in the first carriage. In the second carriage, Sheikh Hamdan bin Abdullah Al Thani, the Marchioness of Lansdowne, who is one of the Queen's friends, plus the Earl of Caledon and his wife, the Countess. And then in the third carriage, some racing legends, Lord and Lady Bamford and Willie and Jackie Mullins, who have, of course, rewritten the rule book as far as winners are concerned in recent years, becoming Willie Mullins the first to do back-to-back trainer titles in both Britain and Ireland. And in the fourth carriage, Lord Lloyd Webber and his wife Madeline, who need absolutely no introduction, great racing people and great friends of the royal family. And then the Right Honourable the Lord Benyon, who is the Lord Chamberlain, and his wife Zoe, who's a jeweller. Lord Chamberlain is the man who is responsible for a lot of the royal functions. If you're a lucky enough person to get invited to a royal garden party, for instance, then you have to reply to the Lord Chamberlain's department, and that is the department that Richard Benyon, former Member of Parliament, now heads. Been in the job just, less than a year. But at the moment, it's eyes right if you're in the grandstand, and eyes left if you're in the centre of the course, as we welcome the royal entourage, the four landlords, and in the front, alongside the King, and the first chance to have a look at the Queen's outfit, are Lord Hugh Cavendish of Furness and his wife, Lady Grenier. And Lord Cavendish is a man who knows a lot about racing, because he is the owner of the Holker estate in Cumbria, on which Cartmel Racecourse is situated. Cartmel, a great summer jumping track venue. They go round and round however many times, and then they finish in the middle, attracts holidaymakers. And everybody keeps telling me that the sticky toffee pudding at Cartmel is as good as any in the land. And there they are, enjoying their day out. Very old friends, and a former Lord in Waiting, in fact, is Lord Cavendish. Great friends of King Charles and Queen Camilla for some years. They were amongst their guests at the coronation. In the second carriage, on the far side left, as we look at them, is Sheikh Hamad bin Abdullah Al Thani, very much the king of the Qatar racing operation, who've done so much for British racing. And sitting alongside him is Earl Caledon, Nicholas Alexander, comes from Northern Ireland, and he is in fact living in County Tyrone, but is the Lord Lieutenant of County Armagh. His wife Amanda with him, and they are close friends of the family. And the Earl of Caledon was one of those who actually carried the Royal Standards during the coronation back a couple of years ago. And the Windsor Greys look as though they've had a very good night's rest, despite all the heat. As we see in carriage 3, this side is Lord Anthony Bamford, who is the man behind JCB, of course, who are major sponsors of racing at Cheltenham, and his wife, Lady Bamford Carroll, who's a very successful owner breeder. I think of horses like Sariska through the years. And on the far side, Willie Mullins, what more can you say? And his wife, Jackie, and Willie who enjoyed so many great moments in the last year, but probably the most special moments of his entire racing career when his son Patrick rode Nick Rocket to victory, trained by him in the National. There's another look at Her Majesty the Queen's outfit. Quite a challenge for the week to make all the plans for 5 different outfits. And in the fourth carriage, Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber and his wife Madeline, they of course have an enormous amount of bloodstock interests. And Lord Lloyd Webber, another close friend of His Majesty, remember that anthem, Make a Joyful Noise? That was one of the highlight moments of the coronation. And on the far side is Lord Richard Benyon and his wife Zoe. And Lord Benyon comes from Oxfordshire, but he organises not only things like garden parties, but also state visits, and is also in overall charge of the Royal Mews, who play such a crucial part in ensuring that this procession is the spectacular pageantry of colour that has got it locked in all round the world. And just look, as we reach the 4 furlong pole, the crowds run deep. There must be, what, 8, 10 of them deep, all looking, all wanting that picture, and all hoping to be the one that can say, I was there. Perhaps just a tad more breeze than yesterday. A brief salty outside suggested perhaps at this stage wasn't quite as warm, but of course we're talking quite early. But there is no surely picture to compare to this. The Royal Procession, something uniquely British, on an afternoon where the sun has come out and the tens of thousands have come out to enjoy this occasion. They approach the intersection of the courses, and on the inside, just look how full that is. That's the village area, only open in the later part of the week, and there are tens of thousands there as well, all looking forward to their day. And days do not start like this very often. The Windsor Greys do a big week's work here, of course. So dear they were to the late Queen Elizabeth that if you drove here, you might well have come through the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, and on one of the roundabouts there you'll see a statue of Windsor Greys, and that was the councillor's gift to the late Queen to celebrate one of her jubilees. And they now get the complete run of the racecourse. Just have a look at that scene with the Golden Gates and Windsor Great Park in the background. And the colours, well, it's very much been red and purple and mauve that have been the colours, not much. So a little bit of yellow and a little bit of green. But they've taken their lead, as always, from the royal couple and their guests, who now approach the most packed area of this grandstand, which celebrates 20 years, of course. 20 years ago, we were at York while they were building it, and now we are enjoying it as we pause for the national anthem. Great cheerings out as the Royal Landau turns left and heads under the stand, and that is the cue for the Royal Standard to be raised on the flagpole high above it to welcome the arrival of His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen to day 4. Of course, they do have a runner later in the Sandringham with a purple rainbow. What a day it is for young Warren Fentiman, getting the chance to don the Royal Silks, and Willie Mullins as well, who's in the procession with Ethical Diamond and also Blue Lemons in the Duke of Edinburgh Handicap. Of course, Willie training 1 for the Royal Family, but I think probably stall 1 did for reaching high in the Ascot Stakes on Tuesday. So the turn is left, and they've been waiting here for some hours. Photographers from around the world. That's the magnetic power of Royal Ascot. Everybody wants to be part of it. Everybody wants to have a look at it, because there is simply nothing quite like it. And as these horses now turn and go under the arch, they'll go past the 2 boards, one of which has the name Trawlerman added to it, because it is the list of winners of the Gold Cup through the years. As the welcoming party get into position, these Ascot Landaus will turn right to give more people than ever a chance to have a look at close quarters. Another chance to have a look at the fashion as well. The King, the Queen, Lord Cavendish of Furness will probably be at Cartmel for the races on Friday, a week today, and getting a great reception. So a lot of purple and red amongst the fashions. Past the Yates statue, the most prolific Gold Cup winner of the modern era. And they turn, and now just yards from the point of disembarkation. The film department have never had it so good. Everybody, it seems, wants to have their shot. Everybody, it seems, wants to be a part of this as the footmen disembark, and it falls to Sir Francis Brooke, the chairman of the Ascot Board of Trustees and His Majesty's representative, to lead the welcoming party. Ahead of the disembarkation. Sir Francis greets Lady Grania Cavendish and Lord Cavendish and His Majesty. And the feature of the week has been the smiles. Meeting other members of the Ascot Board of Directors who run the course 365 days a year. Think of other events that take place here, of course, the huge firework display in November. And then you think that the jumping, well, they'll probably start watering on Monday, I would think. But one thing you'll have noticed is that the King has time for everyone. That's all part of what Royal Ascot is all about. Meeting friends old and meeting friends new. And now the short walk to meet up with the guests who've come in the other landau's while the carriages go back to the Royal Mews at Windsor to be looked after, ready for tomorrow. So, a perfect start to what has the makings of another very special day. Can the Royal Colours be carried to victory? The Coronation Stakes, a real international race, is always the Friday feature. And of course we've got, as usual, another race to kick the card off for 2-year-olds. This time it is the Albany Stakes. Big field, but now it's time for their Majesties to take a stroll towards their vantage point in the Royal Box. The day about to begin in earnest, and we'll now concentrate on race 1, the Albany Stakes.